Hello and welcome. This is David. Thank you for your time. Now let's get into teaching and healing. What fear has hidden still is part of you. Okay, so it hasn't disappeared. Yeah. So I think at this stage you should start considering fear as a veil, something that is like a cloud. It covers. It prevents you from seeing who you really are. And that's why fear quite often stands for the words false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. So it's still part of you, okay? Your true nature is still part of you. Joining the atonement is the way out of fear. In other words, becoming part of the atonement. The Holy Spirit will help you interpret everything that you perceive as fearful. The Holy Spirit will help you reinterpret. Once again, we come back to the function of the higher self, the higher mind. The function of the higher self, the higher mind, or the Holy Spirit, same thing, is to help you look at your perceptions away from a point of fear and separation to a point of love and oneness. Okay? So, continuing to read, and teach you that only what is loving is true, and everything else is just an illusion. Truth is beyond your ability to destroy, but entirely within your ability to accept. Now, do you see how at the beginning of A Course in Miracles, the first statement was, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists, and therein lies the peace of God. So once again, we're back to that statement, because that statement is what summarizes the Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Okay, so I think this first paragraph we're looking at once again revisits that sentence in a different way. Okay, it belongs to you, now truth, because as an extension of the Creator, you created it with Him. Wow, that's super powerful. You created truth with Him. In other words, you are a co-creator with the Maker, with God, and you created truth with Him. You are not standing on the side when it was being created. You are part of that work. That is how high your status is. It is yours because it is part of you, just as you are part of God because He created you. And in my brackets there, oneness. Okay? Teaching and healing continued. Nothing that is good can be lost because it comes from the Holy Spirit, the voice of creation, or voice for creation. So that once again, the Holy Spirit is the voice for creation, for the Creator. Nothing that is not good was ever created, and therefore cannot be protected. Once again, it's just an illusion. The atonement is the guarantee of the safety of the kingdom, and the union of the sonship is its protection. Wow. The union of the sonship is its protection. The ego cannot prevail against the kingdom because the sonship is united. See, the separation can never be made real because the unitedness of the sonship can never be undone. In the presence of those who hear the Holy Spirit's call to be as one, the ego fades away and is undone. So all you have to do is to be one who hears, who's willing to listen to your higher self. Okay? And automatically that will fade the ego and all the illusions. And, what the ego makes, it keeps to itself. And so it is without strength. Aha! So that's the weakness of the ego. Separation. That is the weakness of the ego. Its existence is unshared. It does not die. It was merely never born. That is such a powerful statement. So it's not as if like the ego was born and therefore it will die someday. The Course is saying it does not even die, the ego we're talking about here, because it was never even born. It's just missed, like an illusion, literally. Physical birth is not a beginning, it is a continuing. Everything that continues has already been born. It will increase as you're willing to return the unhealed part of your mind to the higher part, returning it undivided to creation. I have come to give you the foundation so your own thoughts can make you really free. Wow. Once again, we hear the word willingness. All you're asked for is to be willing. The work is done for you. Simply be willing. Excuse me. You have carried the burden of unshared ideas that are too weak to increase. That's amazing. The ideas are weak, but they are burdensome. But having made them, you did not realize how to undo them. You cannot cancel out your past errors alone. They will not disappear from your mind without the atonement, a remedy not of your making. So here, do you see how it has been posited that it has been posed, sorry, it has been, English. It's tricky this morning. Well, this is the position as I understand it. We have bought into an idea, a false belief of separation. This idea cannot disappear from our mind without us being willing to be part of the atonement, or like we said, the Course in Miracles actually says this is one of 1,000 different ways to get there. So, if you don't want to use the word atonement, or if you don't want to come from a, that kind of seemingly Christian language, because that's what the Course is using, the language only. There are many other ways. You can say the enlightenment or whatever. But it is not of your own making. In others, the ego, which is the fruit of which is the illusion of separation, cannot by itself fix itself. Okay? So you literally have to go through the Holy Spirit or the higher self. You have to go through the higher self. Not because, if you don't mind me saying this, my interpretation of Christianity and Jesus Christ, and this is my personal interpretation, and I'm going to say it, and I apologize if I offend anyone, is this. Jesus Christ is a brother just like us, but you can think of him as one who woke up and now is guiding us, just the same as Buddha or any other one who was waken up, because even you and I will wake up. This is the point. Okay, so it's not like, so in the Bible, when Jesus says no one goes to heaven or to God except through me, I think it's a big mistake to interpret it to mean that only through Jesus, that person, because that was the point of that mission, was that forget about persons and personalities. You are all gods. Okay? We are one, the sonship. All I'm doing is an elder brother who's helping you remember that. Okay? So I think that was the point of that sentence, that no one goes to the Father except through me. The word me is Christ. We're talking about the Christos in all of us, the sonship in all of us, the higher self, the Holy Spirit, whatever, The atonement, I'm now continuing to read. The atonement must be understood as a pure act of sharing. That is what I meant when I said it is possible even in this world to listen to one voice. If you are part of God and the sonship is one, you cannot be limited to the self the ego sees. I like that last sentence. If indeed it is true that you are part of God, and if indeed it is true that the sonship is one, then you cannot possibly be limited to the little tiny, weird, crappy, limited self that the ego sees. I think that's very powerful and important. Every loving thought held in any part of the sonship belongs to every part. It is shared because it is loving. Sharing is God's way of creating, and also yours. The ego can keep you in exile from the kingdom, but in the kingdom itself, it has no power. See, that's the big difference. In the kingdom, we don't even need to talk about the ego. It's totally powerless. But when you buy into the idea that you're separate, then the ego can keep you in exile from the kingdom. Okay? Ideas of the spirit do not leave the mind that thinks them, nor can they conflict with each other. Ideas of the spirit do not leave the mind that thinks them, nor can they conflict with each other. However, ideas of the ego can conflict because they occur at different levels. See, there's no unity in the world of ego. And also include opposite thoughts at the same level. It is impossible to share opposing thoughts. Once again, as long as you're in the illusion of separation, you're living in a very private world. You can share only the thoughts that are of God and that He keeps for you, and of such is the kingdom of heaven. The rest remains with you until the Holy Spirit has reinterpreted them in the light of the kingdom. So I think this is quite interesting. It's like any idea that is still part of the illusion remains privately in the part of the mind that has accepted that illusion. But everything else that is loving belongs not just to you or in you, but it's shared across the entire kingdom, across the whole sonship. Okay? So until the fearful thoughts are reinterpreted by the Holy Spirit, they remain just with you only until they're reinterpreted by the Holy Spirit in the light of the kingdom, making them too worthy of being shared. When they have been sufficiently purified, He lets you give them away. The decision to share them is their purification. The decision to share them is their purification. You know, as I'm reading this today, I'm sitting in Mombasa, Kenya, and about 500 kilometers away, we have our capital city, Nairobi, and there's a siege going on right now at a mall called Westgate Mall. And this paragraph makes me wonder, because I just posted on my Facebook status that fine, this terrible thing has happened, but I think we should recognize it as an opportunity for us to understand the need for universal love and brotherhood, and to have that in mind, because it's the only way forward. So I think this is a little bit of an indication of what this paragraph is saying. You know, that when we change our hearts and we realize that we are one and we need to love each other, and we start to share such an idea, this decision to share is the purification of the idea of hatred that we might have had. That was then, we then realize hatred is not going to get us anywhere. So let us instead go towards love, regardless or no matter what. And then this decision to share that idea, or that awakening or remembering, is what then purifies the hatred that we are trying to heal. It's just my take, based on where we are today. I heard one voice because I understood that I could not atone for myself alone. Now this is Christ speaking. Listening to one voice implies a decision to share it in order to hear it yourself. Listening to one voice implies the decision to share it in order to hear it yourself. The mind that was in me is still irresistibly drawn to every mind created by God, because God's wholeness is the wholeness of His Son. In other words, God is incomplete without you. You cannot be hurt and do not want to show your brother anything except your wholeness. Show him that he cannot hurt you and hold nothing against him, or you hold it against yourself. This is the meaning of turning the other cheek. Wow, this is extremely powerful. In light of what I've just said that in Nairobi, Westgate Mall, there's a siege going on. I think by now you'd have seen it on BBC, CNN, wherever you are in the world, because it's big news since Saturday. Now the cause here says, you cannot be hurt, the real you, not your body, and you do not want to show your brother anything except your wholeness. Show him that he cannot hurt you and hold nothing against him, or you hold it against yourself. In other words, when you show anything other than what we've just read, then you're actually hurting yourself. When you turn the other cheek, when you show your brother you cannot be hurt, then you have yourself made yourself invincible, or rather recognize the invincibility that is you. So as you can see, the Course in Miracles really gets heavy, and I think that's why it's actually called a Course in Miracles, because our first instinct is to protect ourselves and attack the other. That is just a natural human instinct. Protect yourself, attack the other. But the Course is saying, forget that. That is what's going to keep you in the problem that you're facing. Instead, project what is truth, that you are one, you are whole. Okay? Teaching is done in many ways, above all by example. Teaching should be healing because it is the sharing of ideas and the recognition that to share ideas is to strengthen them. Okay, I cannot forget my need to teach what I have learned, which arose in me because I learned it. I call upon you to teach what you have learned, because by doing so, you can depend on it. You see, by teaching, you are doing yourself a big favor. And in fact, anything that you do is teaching. There is no time when you're not teaching. Okay. Make it dependable in my name, because my name is the name of God's Son. What I learned, I give you freely, and the mind that was in me rejoices as you choose to hear it. The Holy Spirit atones in all of us by undoing, and thus lifts the burden you have placed in your mind. By following, you are led back to God where you belong, and how can you find the way except by taking your brother with you? You see, now this topic is starting to gel. The topic is called teaching and healing, and we're starting to understand why teaching is healing and healing is teaching. Okay, my part in the atonement is not complete until you join it and give it away. As you teach, so shall you learn. As you teach, so shall you learn. I will never leave you or forsake you, because to forsake you would be to forsake myself and God who created me. You forsake yourself and God if you forsake any of your brothers. You must learn to see them as they are and understand they belong to God as you do. How could you treat your brother better than by rendering unto God the things that are God's? Once again, we're talking about charity, seeing the divine in everyone, always. Okay? The atonement gives you the power of a healed mind, but the power to create is of God. Therefore, those who have been forgiven must devote themselves first to healing, because having received the idea of healing, they must give it to hold it. You must give it to hold it. Okay? The full power of creation cannot be expressed as long as any of God's ideas is withheld from the kingdom. The joint will of the sonship is the only creator that can create like the Father, because only the complete can think completely. and the thinking of God lacks nothing. You see, right there, that sentence really, really answers the question, why, if we are children of God, do we appear so weak? Are we so unable to accomplish some of the most simple, meaningless little, tiny little things, And here the sentence says, the full power of creation cannot be expressed as long as any of God's ideas is withheld from the kingdom. The joint will of the sonship is the only creator that can create like the Father, because only the complete can think completely, and the thinking of God lacks nothing. Everything you think that is not through the Holy Spirit is lacking. Powerful statements. How can you who are so holy suffer? All your past except its beauty is gone, and nothing is left but a blessing. I have saved all your kindness and every loving thought you ever had. I have purified them of the errors that hid their light and kept them for you in their own perfect radiance. They are beyond destruction and beyond guilt. They came from the Holy Spirit within you, and we know what God creates is eternal. So one day, you'll have a review and you'll have everything that was beautiful, and everything that was not, everything that was fake will drop away. You can indeed depart in peace because I have loved you as I loved myself. You go with my blessing and for my blessing. Hold it and share it, that it may always be ours. I place the peace of God in your heart and in your hands to hold and share. The heart is pure to hold it, and the hands are strong to give it. We cannot lose. My judgment is as strong as the wisdom of God, in whose heart and hands we have our being. His quiet children are his blessed sons. The thoughts of God are with you. Wow, that was powerful. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next topic.